Welcome to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour brought to you by Lake Monster Brewing and That's Badass Wood Art. Make sure to go to That's Badass Wood Art to get 20% off any one item. Miles, we got some interesting news dropped on us on an early Monday morning. Eric Kendricks released this morning. Initial thoughts? I know we were talking in a group chat, but let the listeners know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think out of like the expected veterans, he's the one guy like I could make a case to keep him and Harrison Smith. I get why they needed to move on. I think from a scheme standpoint in the 3-4 compared to the 4-3, I think Kendricks might not be as much of a fit. He coming from the Zimmer defense, he was such a great fit in that middle linebacker 4-3. Not sure if he fits that same way in the 3-4, just because of what he's expected to do. And he's getting older, and the Vikings need to clear cap space. And he's one of the one veterans that doesn't hold a lot of dead cap. I think they save 9.5 million, and I think it's only a couple million in dead cap. So unfortunately, it's just one of those situations where the timing, it just kind of ended up being perfect for the Vikings. And needing the cap space, they know that they need to shift the scheme a little bit more with Brian Flores coming in and Eric Kendricks being a little bit older, and so on the other side of 30. And so it just kind of became the perfect storm. I'm going to miss him. I liked Eric Kendricks a lot. He was a guy that did a lot of great things on and off the field in Minnesota. Great work in the community as well. Sounds like he's going to be a new father soon, which really sucks. Just that really hits home for you. I know you and I both as fathers. But overall, I think it's best for both sides. I think Kendricks finding a new start somewhere else and kind of getting a week ahead to do that. And his agent getting to go negotiate somewhere else ahead of free agency next week is a good thing for him. And the Vikings getting to also just get ahead of it. I think we were just talking right before we jumped on. I think the Vikings making this move before next week so that they can start planning and making negotiations with free agents ahead of the tampering period next week is what they really need to be able to do. And so this clears that.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, and you hit it right on the head, right? Great player. Wish he could stay on with us. That would be great. And honestly, I think that with Donatel's defense, he didn't really fit that mold very well. I think he would have fit this one a bit better, just given the aggressive style of it. And Eric Kendricks being more of an aggressive style player, at least back in the Zimmer
Sure.
days.
That's
So
a
I
fair
thought
point.
I thought maybe he would stick around just purely on that, but to your point, the cap savings was just too much. Saving 9.5, only I think dead cap's like 1.3 million, something like that. So
Yeah.
it just was made too much sense, unfortunately, for Kendricks to be moved off the team. Now, what I was really hoping for, and I heard that they were trying to do was talk about a restructuring contract or taking a pay cut. Now, obviously, I don't know why Eric would do that, right? Because that's just admitting that you're not what you once were, and no player wants to admit that. So hopefully he can go get a bag in free agency, at least a little bit more than what we are willing to give him in a pay cut, and hopefully he goes to a contender because to your point, we all love the guy. It's
Yeah.
no there's no ill will here. Hopefully he'll be successful wherever he goes. So now with that, obviously that leaves a big gap in what we have at the linebacker position. We have Asamoah. We still have Hicks. Do you anticipate Hicks being moved off as well? Given I think we say 5 million if we move on from him.
Hicks is one of those guys I wouldn't be surprised if there's, I guess, maybe one of two options, right? I would not be surprised at all if he's cut. I think they might want to start fresh there because I think if between Hicks and Kendricks, is a better player than Hicks. Obviously, it's about half the savings though. So it's not the same. Like if they wanted to keep at least one of the two, I can understand, and you can't negotiate a deal with Kendricks to keep him here at a cheaper rate. I can understand. Okay, well, we have Hicks, who's half the cost of Kendricks. I get that, but what I could potentially see as well is maybe they're negotiating a pay cut with Hicks as well. So maybe they shave half of Hicks's money, and maybe he has a chance to earn some of it back in incentives. Otherwise, I would be fine with just cutting him outright as well, the same way that they did Kendricks, because I think the free agency class and the draft class for the off-ball linebackers to pair with Asamoah, I think you could find somebody at a similar rate, like money-wise as Hicks, but might have a little bit more upside. So I'd have no problem moving on from a Hicks as well, and then just finding someone. I think there's a few names out there. I know Tremaine Edmonds is a name to consider. He's a lot more expensive, but he's a guy to consider. There's a Van Ginkel, is that his name? There's Drew Tranquil. Like there's a few other guys that fit a little bit more this mold that I think could come in at that $4, $5, $6 million range, that are younger with a little bit more upside that the Vikings on a veteran deal could try.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation. You know, Hicks and Kendricks performed relatively evenly, at least based on PFF grades over the last year. And with Hicks being half the cost, I understand why they're going to make that move. But yeah, I would like to see a fresh start. There's a lot of linebackers in this draft that I really like, and then you can definitely go sign a free agent, veteran free agent that can hopefully be some sort. And unless Hicks is willing to take a pay cut. Sign a veteran free agent that would be able to provide that veteran leadership there. Obviously, no fun seeing Kendricks get cut. Fan favorite for many years. Since 2015. So we're looking at 7 years of really strong linebacker play, and we're on to a new era. So I'm sure we'll be back. Maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, talking about some of these other moves that potentially are going to happen.
Well, that's what I was going to say real quick before we jump off. I think that's the one thing, like this is a snowball effect, right? So I'm kind of surprised it was just one announcement, but I would guess he's the first of the easier cuts. I say easier as in they gave themselves to the combine to make decisions on these guys. When they talked to their agents, they said, hey, here's where we're at with contracts. If you're willing to take this pay cut, you can stay. If you're not, we're going to let you go ahead of free agency because we got to make these decisions. And my guess is the combine was the deadline for a lot of these guys. So I guess we'll hear more on obviously Kendricks, Hicks, Thielen, Ham. Harrison Smith is kind of the one I'm not sure of like what's the deal with, but we'll see with him. But those are kind of the main guys. And then maybe Zadarius Smith is that kind of like in between.
Yeah, that's a huge cap savings opportunity there, but he's also a really good player. So so that'll be another tough decision like this Kendricks one, I'm sure. So make sure to tune in to all of the Climb in the Pocket content that we have going on right now. Real 4-0 show tonight. You're going to see more of our regular Viking Happy Hour shows here on Tuesday, Thursday, as well as these impromptu videos that we put out here for these releases and signings of players and whatnot. So stay locked in with us, and we'll be pumping out great content. So until then, see you next time, and Skol Vikings.